What's going on, Dirt Tracks viewers? Luke here again, bringing you guys another walk around video on a model that you have asked us for information about. I would even go so far as to say demanded information about. We just got our Wolverine RMAX4 seater in. I haven't ridden it yet. I've spent a lot of time in the two-seater, but I have not driven this four-seater yet. So these are just my first impressions, and I wanted to give you guys some overview specs on the differences between the two and the four-seater. So to get started, basically from this point forward, it's a two-seater. It looks exactly the same. Every feature is the same. So there's nothing different from here forward. It has all of the nice things that we liked about the two-seater. Obviously, it's tough looking. I mean, the nose of this thing, what I didn't understand at first, it's I think still really weird, is that the lights up top are just accent lights. The actual headlights are down here in the middle. I didn't know that, so I learned a new lesson. But I think that's kind of weird. Anyway, it's cool looking though. That's what really matters, right? Cool looks. Comes with a roof, in this case, a full-size 4-seat roof. It's got your two 4-wheel drive diff lock switch here, and then it does also have your D modes. So you've got sport, trail, and crawl, just like the two-seater does. Now, on the Yamaha website, this model is listed as having a speed management system. I haven't looked into that further. The two-seater does not list having a speed management system. So that's something. I don't know exactly. I haven't, as I said, done the research to do a test ride on this yet. When I do that, I will look into it deeper, but it's something to consider from their literature. Interior wise, again, as I said, identical. You got storage in your center console. Now this pod here in the middle, there's a little bit of storage behind it. I don't know what you'd put in there, but it is a little tiny storage container. About 3,000 places to put accessory switches if you ever choose to do that. And one note that I learned on the two-seater that's really interesting is the drains in the floor use the same rubber cover as the switch covers in the dash. So I guess that's just great for parts compatibility, but if you ever lose one of your drain plugs in the floor and you're desperate for one, you can just pull one of the switch covers off and throw it on the floor. So there you go, a little bit of information for you. Now let's talk about a few differences. Before we get into the back, let's talk about some of the spec differences, and I had to write these down because some of them are very small and some of them are very important. So first and foremost, the vehicle is 8.8 inches longer total length. It has a 3.5 inch longer wheelbase, and it is, this is a weird one, 5.3 inches taller. So that would be, you know, probably up in this area right here for the second story of this passenger roll bar. But I thought that was an interesting one if you're fitting it in a trailer and you need to know that, you know, the exact height or whatever. I don't have the exact height written down, but it is taller than the two-seater. Now here's a weird one, and I think I've deciphered maybe why, but I don't think there's any good enough excuse for it. This vehicle has a 7.7 gallon gas tank, which is 1.5 gallons less than the two-seater. 4 people designed to go cruising and touring, but you have less fuel than the two-seater. That to me doesn't make any sense, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. It's probably because there's more junk up in the back where the gas tank might be and places for people's feet and all that kind of stuff. That's probably why, but it just seems like a shame to go from the 9 point something or other to the 7.7. So yeah, that was a little weird, but not a big deal. Now the one spec that I think is a big deal, and again, I think I know why, I just don't like it, is the rear end travel. This uses the same shock setup as the two-seaters, so the QS3s, piggyback Fox QS3s that we love and work great. It has 13.3 inches of rear travel, which is 3.6 inches less travel than the two-seater in the back, and it's also about an inch less travel in the front. So that's kind of a weird specification setup for this thing, especially when you consider you have passengers in the back. And if you ever wanted more travel, it would be in the back for your passengers. So that's a weird one, and I don't know how that's going to work on the trail. You can bet that we'll pay close attention to it when we give this thing a full shakedown, but something I thought you'd want to know about. It does come with the rock rails like the two-seater does, which is excellent. Comes with the mirror. This is the XTR version, which was pointed out to me that while this isn't listed as an XTR in Canada, it's listed as a premium or limited or something like that. It's got one of those names. It does say XTR on it. So it's basically just the website in Canada that has the wrong name, I guess. We don't get the SE or the LE. We don't get the full jam one with the screen in the dash that the US guys do, but this in the US is listed on the website as an XTR. In Canada, it is not listed as an XTR, but it does in fact say XTR on it, and they are identical. So do with that information what you will. Front seats, same as the two-seater, very comfortable, we really like them. Shoulder bolster, don't like it at all. Wish it was removable or adjustable, or wish it was integrated into the door somehow. But this, not a high point for me. The shifter works flawlessly. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna go around the other side so you guys can look in here while I'm talking. Again, the little storage container right here, you know, it's decent. It's got a bit of stuff in there, and it's got a rubber gasket, probably more to keep out dust than water, but you got your storage container here, your little glove box. Best passenger grab handle in the industry. It's adjustable with one little lever, like with all kinds of adjustment levels, and it's rubber grip. It's like super nice to hold on to, and I had to hold on tight when AJ was driving the two-seater with me in it, so I know that this thing works. But I like that part about it. Again, I griped in my two-seat review test ride that you may or may not have seen yet, but it's coming out pretty soon, that this looks unfinished. I don't like this here. I know why it's there. It's because there's, you know, the upgraded screen for this section of the dash, and this does open. As I said, it has a small storage area behind it, but there's something better that could have been done with this actual panel to make it look more finished and less like you bought the version that didn't come with all the stuff. It looks like that. It looks like, oh, you didn't get the screen. Where's the screen? So that's kind of, I don't like that part, but it's not a huge deal. It doesn't affect the vehicle and how it works. It does include a winch from the factory, which is great. You can see from this angle all of the switch cutouts. I don't know who would have that many accessories. That's like 10 light bars. Tilt steering with gauge in column, and I like that. It's really easy to read through the steering wheel. Excellent steering wheel. Typical stuff for the two-seater. The doors work great. They're nice, solid feeling doors that lock in tight. The latches work good. So front of it, two-seater front end, works good. Very happy with it. Let's move to the back. This is obviously where the big differences between the two vehicles are. You know, traditionally, Yamaha has had smallish back seats, and I wanted to give you guys my first honest, truest impression that I could possibly give you. So I have not sat back here yet, but I'm about to, and you're going to get to see it firsthand. So let's see how a 6'1" male adult fits. Okay. Well, like previous versions, and I think Hondas as well are like this, because of this shoulder bolster, it's actually a bit of an acrobatic move to get into the back seat. You can't just step into it. So that's something that I don't like about other versions, other models that are like that, and I can see that it would bother me with this one. When you go to get out, you have to get out around the shoulder bolster, but there really isn't a lot of space for your body, so it's kind of weird that way. Definitely not a ton of room for knees. I'm 6'1", so I'm probably, you know, among the bigger people who's ever going to sit back here, but definitely not a lot of space for your knees, and that to me would be a bit of a problem if you're going to have big passengers in the back, though I have to assume most people wouldn't have big guys like me in the back. It's usually your kids or whatever. This center console right here is very much intrusive into the foot area for the passenger, so I can just basically get my feet side by side with the door closed. There's really no room for my feet to go anywhere else side to side, and I can see if I was back here or a bigger person was back here again, that would get a little cramped after a long ride. So something to consider for your back seat. Probably not best for big guys. I like this grab handle here. It's rubberized. It's not just a metal bar, so it actually is a grab handle, and it's nice and wide. That's a smart move on Yamaha's part. I would say though, probably better to put some sort of little bumper here as opposed to a plastic cover, because if you got your kids and you're going to be banging into stuff, as much as we like to protect their necks as best as possible, they do tend to fly around a bit. They could be bumping into that a lot. So anyway, back seat, 4 cup holders, you know, sippy cups. Got a lot of cups for kids. Doors are like the front. They're very well built, solid, Loctite. I like that. Nice latches. Let's try and get out. Yep, it's tight getting out. Okay, now let's move on to the back of this thing, because something I didn't know about the 4-seat was that it has the same seating system as the Wolverine X4 does with the movable seats. I think that's really interesting. It does not include a dumping cargo bed, as most four-seaters don't, but the fact that the seats move does make this very functional. I'm going to attempt to do this because it can be a bit finicky. So first step is to move the seat bottom. You undo the latch and just slide it forward. And then it locks in. So there you go. That's actually pretty nice. The bed capacity in the four-seater is exactly the same as the two-seater. I believe it's 600 pounds. That's very interesting that they've maintained the same amount of bed capacity for the 2 and 4 seat versions, and makes this vehicle very functional. You know, people are going to compare this to a Pioneer 4, TRAX 4. They're very similar in terms of short wheelbase four-seaters, but I wouldn't say that they're as functional or as multifunctional. The Pioneer it has seats that move around and fold down and stuff, but I think this might be a little better. Now, what remains to be seen, and what I'm gonna just come out and say is gonna end up being a problem, is that when these seat rails get full of garbage and junk and rocks and grit, that seat's not gonna slide forward very smoothly, and it's gonna be a pain. Now, with that said, it's not something you're gonna do every day. You're not gonna do it 10 times a day. You're gonna do it once, work with it, and then put it back and maybe do it again, you know, a few days later. So if it is a bit of a hassle to put the seats forward, it's not like it's something you do all the time. Not a huge issue, and the fact that it has that functionality is definitely worth the trade-off. Tailgate, nice single lever, solid locking tailgate, doesn't, you know, give you any cause for concern there. 2-inch hitch receiver. Overall, this thing's a really good vehicle. My first impressions of it with you guys, you're experiencing this with me, is that this is every bit as good as the two-seater in terms of fit and finish, functionality, innovation, all of those things. It's definitely really high on the list. We really like the performance of the two-seater in terms of the power that the engine gives off. The 3 modes, I'll be interested to see if they've retuned the 3 modes with this one for sport to be a little softer, because that was one of our gripes, AJ and I both, with the two-seaters, that the sport mode was way too jumpy and too abrupt. It'd be nice if they toned it down for the two-seater, given that you've got passengers to consider and passengers to keep comfortable. On the two-seater, you get 30-inch Carnivore tires. On this one, you get 29-inch Carnage tires. You got to get those names right. So that's an interesting difference between the two. 1-inch different tire. Why you do that, I don't know. Probably it's a ride quality thing. That the Carnivores are a pretty aggressive tire, but to me, just leave them on. It's 1 inch. It's not going to make a huge difference, but either way, these look like a great tire. I haven't actually tried these tires before, but I'm looking forward to it, because this pattern looks like it's probably going to be a really good multi-purpose pattern. That's the end of what I got to say about this thing right now. I like it so far. I like the looks of it. If it's anything like the two-seater, if it performs anything like the two-seater, it's going to be a great vehicle. It's going to be awesome. We will test it 2, 4. We'll test everything on it for you guys and give you guys a much more in-depth rundown when we do our test ride before the end of the season. But for right now, this walk around is what you get. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it answered some of your questions and gave you some of the information that we're going to be looking at in depth in the test ride. Got more of these things coming up for you on different models, so stay tuned and keep watching Dirt Trax. We'll see you guys next time. If you've enjoyed this episode of Dirt Trax TV, definitely reach down and click the like button, and please consider subscribing to our channel if you want to see more content just like this. We appreciate it a lot, and stay tuned for more stuff coming from Dirt Trax in the very near future.